united by history and driven by the future. We come together to find solutions to global challenges. I wish you all a meaningful and memorable time in Samoa. Soifua Mayamanu.
Talofa lava from beautiful Samoa, I'm Alice Lolohea.
Awhio mai, I'm Johnson Raela, and we're here for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, also known as CHOGM.
It's a massive week for Samoa with lots of events on. King Charles is here, there's leaders from many Commonwealth countries, and we'll be speaking with young leaders, locals, about what the Commonwealth means to the Pacific in the 21st century.
There are forums, meetings and side events all over Apia while CHOGM is on.
And an emotional journey home to Samoa for Pacific Beat's Agnes Tupou.
I made it home, Mum.
Before we get into it, can we please give it up for the village of Tufulele, who have adopted Cameroon as their Commonwealth country.
Villages all across Upolu are bursting with colour because they've been in preparation for months.
Now, before thousands arrived for CHOGM, we took a look behind the scenes to see what it takes to prepare for such a momentous occasion. Samoa is the first Pacific nation to host the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, welcoming 3 monarchs, dozens of leaders and more than 4,000 officials, diplomats and visitors from the Commonwealth. Journalists like us from more than 150 media organisations will also be here. And with hotels at capacity, the cruise ship Pacific Explorer is here to help house those extra guests.
Logistically, it's going to be an island experience.
An experience the entire nation is in on, making sure Samoa looks its best. As you drive along Upolu's roads, you can see the lengths locals have gone to decorate their villages in the colours and flags of their adopted Commonwealth nation.
That's part of our culture. Yeah, is to show our humanity and hospitality and respect.
We look forward to welcoming you in true island style.
And island style always involves food. For months now, farmers have been prepping crops to ensure CHOGM is well supplied.
We are feeding our farmers, but yeah, if I'm going to all that, if you tell my fine too.
And the arrival of King Charles and foreign leaders has heightened security.
So we have a solid team of Samoan police officers that will be working with the security team from the UK.
And over 1,600 police personnel from Samoa, Australia, New Zealand and the Pacific will patrol the event. The UK, New Zealand and Australia have each also sent a Navy ship for added security. And with the last decorations being added to villages on Upolu, Samoa is ready to host the 27th Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting.
Here with us is our Samoan reporter, Adele Fruin. Talofa lava.
Good morning, Taya Manuia Alisi, and good morning to everybody else.
So there's clearly been an incredible amount of prep here in Samoa, and it seems like people really care.
Yes, they do. Our Samoan people really do care about hosting such big events like this. That is evident across Samoa, from families, villages, even churches coming together, you know, to make Samoa like a memorable experience for all our Commonwealth visitors.
It has absolutely been memorable. And, you know, the King is now in Samoa. He's visiting a village where there'll be an ava ceremony taking place before the big events on the weekend. Do Samoans care about actually seeing the royal family?
Yes, they do. For some of, you know, our Samoan people, they're traveling, you know, from their respective villages just to catch a glimpse of the King and Queen. You know, it's our Samoan people, and also some of the people I've spoken to, for them, it's important in the sense that it's an historical moment for Samoa and for them. You know, these are the sort of stories you tell your young ones, you know, and also for the future generations, basically. So yes.
Yeah, and you'll definitely have stories to share with
Lots.
your young ones as well. Thank you so much, Adele Malo Lava. Now, the Pacific is no stranger to royal visits. There have been plenty over the years, and people still talk about Queen Elizabeth's visit to Tonga to visit Queen Charlotte in 1954.
There was also her tour of the Pacific in 1982, where she visited Papua New Guinea, the Solomon Islands, Nauru, Kiribati, Tuvalu and Fiji. But now it's King Charles's turn to carve out his own relationship with the Pacific, and that begins right here in Samoa, where he'll be opening the main event when leaders meet.
And it's no secret that King Charles is a major advocate for climate action, and it hasn't gone unnoticed here in the Pacific either.
Yeah, earlier we caught up with climate activist Suluafe Brianna Fruin, who talked about what more leaders need to do to address climate action.
We can't talk about climate change without talking about the cause, and we know that the cause is carbon emissions, and we know that many of the Commonwealth nations still extract coal, oil and gas, and so I hope we're brave enough to talk about where we're at with reducing and moving towards renewables.
What do you think the Commonwealth needs to do more to address climate action?
Financing is so important, right? Especially for islands who are having to adapt to impacts where the destruction far exceeds our GDP sometimes, right? So I just want to acknowledge that that is important, but at the same time, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a break in the pipe when the easiest thing is to turn the tap off, you know? No matter how many Band-Aids we put on the climate crisis, if we're not addressing the root cause, we're just going to need more and more money.
When we look at having a platform to be able to speak about climate change, what do you say to a young person? How do we encourage them to still use their voice for climate change?
I would say that it's almost a misconception that a mic means you have a voice. A mic doesn't mean you have a voice. If someone can listen, can see you, that means you have a voice, whether that's speaking to your village, to your youth group. And then I think it's also a call out to the world media. A lot of the time media goes to the islands for victim stories that bring about almost clickbait sadness, right? When we have to re-look at who's actually the heroes who are actually fighting this crisis, and it's Pacific people, and expand the narrative that the Pacific Islands are just drowning islands, expand that actually they're some of the most resilient islands in the world.
So what are some of the other big discussion topics on the agenda for Commonwealth leaders?
Well, to break it all down for us, we sat down with ABC's Foreign Affairs reporter Stephen Jedgetts.
The first thing, of course, is that we're going to get a new Commonwealth Secretary General. So that's going to happen on Friday evening. And on the Saturday, I think that's when leaders are going to get down to a couple of other things. First thing on the agenda is probably just this joint communique that's issued at the end of every CHOGM. That's basically going to be a lengthy statement which sums up a consensus position on a whole lot of issues. And then, of course, the other thing is that we'll get any sort of standout documents, and perhaps at the top of that list this time around is the Oceans Declaration. But imagine there's going to be some strong language around climate change and potentially even something on the contentious issue of deep sea mining. That's one thing I think we need to track because, as you know, in the Pacific, that is a really divisive issue.
So from a geopolitics perspective, does CHOGM have merit?
I mean, merit is a tricky word, right? Because this is basically a whole lot of countries coming together to try and reach consensus positions. Now, because the Commonwealth is so big and sprawling, 56 countries, there are probably more differences than there are commonalities. Yeah, there are some common points. Most Commonwealth nations are democracies. There's often a common language, often common rule of law and common systems, but there are still sharp differences on a whole lot of issues. Will there be any huge breakthroughs? No, this is slow, painstaking work, but that's still the only way that you can get things done.
Last week we were lucky enough to speak to the Secretary General, and of course the elections for that are coming up. Do you have any idea who the possible front runners might be?
Well, there are three candidates. They're all African. One of the things that's interesting is that all three candidates from all three countries have said that they are, at least in principle, in favour of reparations for the injustices of slavery and colonialism, or at least in favour of some form of restorative justice. The United Kingdom's already signalled ahead of this meeting that it's not going to make any sort of formal apology, and that the question of reparations, at least for the British government, remains off the table. But the fact that you're going to have a new Secretary General who's, at least in principle, in favour of something in this space is going to ensure that that debate remains a live one.
Well, obviously there's lots up for discussion, but something lots of people have been talking about is the role of the Commonwealth in the 21st century, as well as the impact of the British Empire and how to deal with it today.
Take a listen to veteran reporter Kalafi Moala speaking at the People's Forum.
Listen to one side, boy, it's all China's fault. Then you listen to China, it's all the West's fault. And I tend to agree a little bit with the Chinese because, you know, the Chinese have never invaded the Pacific. The Chinese have never tested the atomic bombs in the Pacific, thanks to the Americans and the French. So the history or the memories we have of the Pacific is just huge violation by the Western forces who are now saying to us, watch out for China. Such hypocrisy. And I can say that as a Pacific Islander.
That's one perspective, but we took a deeper look at how the Commonwealth came into being and what it can do for the Pacific today. The Commonwealth of Nations, a voluntary association of 56 countries, with member governments agreeing to shared goals like development, democracy and peace. Home to about 2.5 billion people, the Commonwealth covers huge swathes of the globe, and it's the largest single association of nations from the developing world. But why is the King of England the head of the Commonwealth? It's all because of colonialism. When the British Empire began to dissolve in the years following the Second World War, the Commonwealth evolved in its place with Queen Elizabeth as its head. Her Majesty took an active role in growing and promoting the organisation.
We shall be able to make of this ancient Commonwealth, which we all love so dearly, an even grander thing.
Supporters say it provides a network to foster international cooperation and trade links, with a focus on promoting democracy and addressing issues such as climate change. Importantly, 9 Pacific Island nations are members. But in the 21st century, more and more countries are asking questions about the past.
Give us what you stole from us! This is not your land! You are not our king!
Before CHOGM, Australian Senator Lydia Thorpe forced King Charles to confront colonialism head-on.
Queen Elizabeth's empire is becoming a little bit smaller.
In November 2021, the Caribbean island nation of Barbados ended colonial ties nearly 400 years after British boats first landed on its shores.
From this moment, every Barbadian becomes the living embodiment of the new republic.
Once a prosperous colony powered by slaves who produced tobacco and sugarcane, Barbados's Prime Minister Mia Mottley said becoming a republic would help the country shed its colonial past. But also watching on was then Prince Charles.
From the darkest days of our past and the appalling atrocity of slavery, which forever stains our history, the people of this island forged their path with extraordinary fortitude.
Yet Barbados still opted to remain with the Commonwealth. In fact, only 15 Commonwealth countries actually still retain the British monarchy as their heads of state. Today, the Commonwealth says it's striving to right the wrongs of the past and promote its shared values. But that hasn't stopped a debate raging about its relevance. It has no actual power to enact policy, and some argue it's nothing more than a colonial hangover.
Where is the relevance of the Commonwealth in the 21st century?
Britain, whether we like it or not, they have brought its family together. Many of the Pacific Islanders are still living in that old structure, but also living in the other constitutional parliamentary democracy structure. The scars and the wounds of that time are still being felt today. In the present, we have really heated, horrible hotspots in the world for which many of us in this part of the world feel impotent, feel inadequate to assist in any way. And so what is the Commonwealth's contribution is to maintain the communication, maintain the relationships, especially young people, because they're the future. And so that when they become the leaders, they take over, those memories and those relationships retain the peace.
Okay, so a lot of people have been talking about the past and how it has shaped today, but what about the future? There's more than 1.2 billion people under the age of 30 living in the Commonwealth. From all corners of the world, young people are descending on Apia to raise their voices and have their say.
We've talked about resilience and youth empowerment and sustainable development, and I want to take an opportunity to explore how we can take those ideas even further.
The Youth Forum is bringing some of the Commonwealth's best young leaders together to talk about the big ideas shaping their futures. The outcome of these discussions? A signed declaration with 51 demands for their governments addressing everything from climate change to artificial intelligence.
The beauty of the Commonwealth is having young people who are also from the UK, who are also from Australia, who are also from Canada, and I asked them to hold their governments accountable.
We sat down with the organisation's outgoing chairman, Kim Allen from PNG.
So the main role and the function of the CYC, in short, is to represent young people at the highest level of decision making, to bring youth voices from the community, from every across sector, to bring them up to the governments, heads of government, and say these are the visions, the dreams, the hopes of young people.
Welcome. We are here in the Pacific with shared values, hope for the future.
When you talk to Pacific young people across the region, what are some of the issues that they're saying that they need the CYC or the Commonwealth to address further?
Employment is a big issue in the region. Job security, skill set is an issue in our region. Of course, climate change, political participation. How can young people participate in decision making? Because that's where they make their voices heard. They just want access to education. They just want to have a job. They just want to create something for themselves so that they can help themselves and, of course, their families and their community.
We see a lot of young people now, especially across the Pacific, talking about the damage colonisation has done to the region. So, is the Commonwealth still relevant today? Yeah, it is relevant. We live in a global community. It is relevant, and these international communities, as similar like the Commonwealth or the UN, they're relevant in the sense that we come together as a global community. But what's important is navigating our own future. And that is the theme of the Commonwealth Youth Forum, navigating our course, building resilience for a common future. I'm going to tell a story. When I was a kid, I used to sail on this sailing canoe to school. And when we used to sail, everyone has a role in there. There is the steerman, there is the captain, the one who pulls the string, the trigger man, and then you have people, the bailing man. They bail the water out of the canoe. After some time, then I reflected on that journey, that experience. That in a sail, you see different strings. You have different people. I've always reflected on relationships, certain relationships you need to release, certain relationships you need to strengthen them. And, I just want to give an encouragement to the Pacific young people. It's a great opportunity. The world is coming. 56 members coming here. The world is coming to Pacific. Of course, we have challenges. We have digital challenges here. The cost of internet is very high in the region. Travel, it's very super expensive to travel within the Pacific. But with internet, with access to technology, young people are savvy. There are great opportunities out there at the international level, even in your community as well. You have to push yourself in order to reach there. Yeah, and I'm vying always for the Pacific youth and also youth in general across the Commonwealth. Another group meeting to Talanoa are women.
The Commonwealth Women's Forum is the highlight of the CHOGM week. And don't tell anyone I said that.
It's a chance for women to share their wins and the work still to do.
We share common ground as women around the world.
We need to work together.
Gender-based violence persists. Income inequity, structural discrimination, and restriction of women from leadership opportunities are still a plague in our world. We don't let men do anything else on their own. So why do we let them run the world?
I was always being stigmatized just because of the person I was.
Ladies or transgender women are also represented at the forum.
Malo Lele and Talo Falava. My name is Joey Jolene Mataile, and I'm from the Kingdom of Tonga, the only remaining kingdom in the Pacific. I wanted to specifically say that.
Ms. Mataile is the incoming chair of the Commonwealth Equity Network, the first Pacific person elected to the role. As the first Pacific person to take up this role, why do you think this is important?
I'm still the chairperson for the Pacific Sexual Gender Diversity Network, which represents about 15 Pacific islands. So for me to go from this to 56 countries, it's already giving me lines in my forehead, okay? I mean, it's exciting, it's overwhelming, but at the same time, if I reflect back of what, now I'm getting emotional. The priest yesterday mentioned at church, you know, your life, if you do not respect, if you do not have love, and if you do not serve, then your life your work is not even useful at all. Some Commonwealth countries that we have worked with have decriminalized and have successfully achieved quite a lot in some of those countries, but there are still more to do.
So what do you hope to achieve in this role?
We suffer so much because of not recognizing it. And it reminds me of the High Chief Tuatangaloa, Joe Annandale. He spoke about existence of third gender, the significance of recognizing and upholding their role in society and culture. And we do need to recognize that, because they are part of the community. They are an asset, you know, and maybe the world can learn from what the Pacific Island can do, have been doing. That the third gender has been existed from ages ago, before Christianity came to the world, okay? It's meant to be used for respect, not to criminalize, not to disrespect, not to marginalize and stigmatize everybody else that's different. For goodness sake, we are citizens of this country. We've been able successfully decriminalize homosexuality law in 12 countries, right? And so we've got 6 more to go. Hopefully, I'll be able to do that before I get on the wheelchair.
What are the biggest issues currently facing rainbow communities in the Pacific?
We had our president, Polly Kalepo, was murdered, brutally murdered. So there are still hate. There are still, even though we're accepted, tolerance to acceptance, there's still a lot of work to be done. And understand that these people are citizens of their country. We all pay tax, you know. Why would we do that? And we try and help the economy and all that, and then you marginalize us just because we're different? We didn't ask God to be created like this. Hello, we can't help it. Everybody's the same in the eyes of God. We are all created in the image of God, you know, but we need to make sure that we do things with a lot of patience, a lot of love, and spread that love. That's it.
Okay, it's time to change pace for something special.
Come with us as we follow ABC Pacific Radio host Aggie Thupol's emotional journey back home to Mulifanua village.
I love playing guitar and ukulele. Yeah.
My mum was born on the 30th of May, 1945, in a village here called Mulifanua. Growing up, I must say, I put my mum on a pedestal. She was very much a woman of service. I loved watching her, how she would serve our family.
We're having our lunch.
The siblings, some stayed in Samoa and some went back to Tonga. We sort of gravitated more towards our Tongan side, but she was that connection. Teenage years is probably when I really just rebelled against my mother. She forgave me, she loved on me, she helped me, especially when I became pregnant with my first child. Was probably the biggest disappointment, but she was there for me. So I knew that Mum was getting on in age, and I really wanted to find that connection to our Samoan culture. So I ended up doing Anga Nu'ufa Samoa classes to teach us about all those things that you need to know as a Samoan. And I got her to come along to the graduation, and my gosh, it was really emotional being able to watch her be the first person to stand up and applaud. And I think that's what I'm gutted about, is that, too busy living my own life that I never really took the time to come to Samoa with her. It's like too little too late, but at the same time, I still feel like it's perfect timing and I get to see her homeland. I know later this week, we're going to go and actually meet the family. And so that is something I'm really just excited for and can't wait to make that connection. Thank you very much, Whaftai Lava. I just enlisted the help of Adele. Really, really grateful that you're coming to be able to support me so that I can go and meet the family for the first time. She pretty much will be like someone who will kali or like be the person who replies on behalf of me. I feel like I've seen my mum sit at this bench in a photo. Oh yeah.
And they're waving at you.
Yes. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. Okay. Malo or Eki.
Culturally, there's just a lot of things that happen when you do these sort of things. I feel like they were just happy and excited that Aggie came.
Yes, yeah. I don't even know which is which. Oh, Nana? Oh, okay. Wow.
You know, I think that's one of the most significant thing about Samoa. Yes, we may grow up here and we may, move overseas, but there's always that one thing, you always have to come back.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I made it home, Mum.
All right, that's our show from here in Samoa. Thank you very much for joining us. Also, special thanks to our colleagues, Stephen, Jordan, Adele and Aggie for their help here at CHOGM.
Whawhetai tele lava to the people of Samoa.
Tofa soifua!
Soifua!